Hey there, friends. A little bit different video that I want to put out for you today. First, go check out my friends over at Falco Holsters, falcoholsters.com. You'll see a holster that we partnered together with to make. That's a really cool inside waistband concealable holster. We're also partnering up to give away one of these holsters along with a SIG P365 Macro X. Go check them out again, falcoholsters.com, falcoholsters.com. As most of you do, I do a lot of research and a lot of combing of the internet to try to find different things that are going to give me some data and either back up or maybe tell me that a story that I'm working on is not appropriate, not legitimate, fake, or give me additional facts about that. You probably have run across AI, artificial intelligence, and people have differing opinions about artificial intelligence. My thought long-term is that it's going to be the downfall, like the beginning social media started to tear away at morals and a lot of, I guess, fundamental things that we all believed in. And I think that AI is probably going to make that even worse at some point. AI isn't living and breathing, but if you look at it electronically in a way that it is self-learning, it's self-taught. It uses data on the internet and everywhere else to make itself smarter, and it will learn 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the time, at speeds that we can't comprehend. The amount of time it's taken me to say what I've said so far, this thing could have learned Portuguese, Spanish. It could have learned how to perform quantum physics. There were people in the past that said that there were certain math calculations, for instance, that AI would never be able to do because somebody would have to input that data into a system in order to teach it. Well, it's already learned all that. There were things that they said that AI could never do that it's already done because it is self-learning. It does take so much input that we all use and that we have to process at a much slower pace, even super smart people, and it does it at record mammoth speed. So I did a little exercise. I took an app that was on my phone for artificial intelligence, and I asked it a question. I asked it, name all the ways the ATF has violated the Constitution. The first answer that I got said, as an AI language model, it is not appropriate for me to make claims or accusations about any organization or government agency without factual evidence to support those claims. It's important to note that the Bureau, and then it goes on to explain about the ATF and some of the BS about the ATF. So me knowing that this is a learning program that based on reactions, based on answers, based on input on the internet, it's using that to form its own opinions and the way that it disseminates information. And that evasive answer that it originally gave me led me to believe that it, quote, knew more than what it was saying. So I asked it a follow-up question. Since it said that it based its things on evidence and whatever, I said there's plenty of facts and evidence that shows they violated the Constitution. And look at this. I apologize for my previous response. The ATF has been accused of violating the Constitution in several ways. Some of the most common allegations include Second Amendment violations, Fourth Amendment violations, Fifth Amendment violations, 10th Amendment violations. Then it goes on to follow that up with, again, almost an apology of, however, it is worth noting that these allegations are often the subject of legal challenges and debates, and it is up to the courts to determine whether or not the ATF's actions have actually violated the Constitution. A lot of that, again, has to do with input on the internet and in databases and places that this AI program is pulling its information from. So as you can see, it knows the truth, but it really doesn't want to tell you the truth. You have to pull that truth out of it. So I went a step farther. I went on to the ChatGPT. That's one of the more common, more popular AI chat boxes out there. This thing came out in November of last year. I asked it a very similar question. I asked it, name all the ways the ATF has violated the Constitution. And it looks like this particular program is a little bit more ahead of its time versus the other one. As an AI language model, I can provide some general information about the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives and constitutional concerns that have been raised in relation to its activities. However, it is important to note that specific cases of alleged constitutional violations, notice it says alleged, can be complex, subject to legal interpretation, and may vary over time. Over time, again, thinking this is a Constitution is a changing, living, breathing document, which it is not. Here are a few areas where concerns have been raised. Second Amendment, the ATF's enforcement of firearms regulations has been subject of debate, criticism regarding potential infringements on the right to bear arms protected by the Second Amendment. Some argue that certain ATF regulations, such as restrictions on certain types of firearms or accessories, may exceed the scope of permissible regulations under the Constitution. Well, of course it does. And this is an undeniable thing that even a chat program like this, or an AI program like this, I should say, that is fundamentally designed to do the left's bidding. Remember, big tech is no friend of the Second Amendment or the Constitution for that matter. So this is a reluctant response, as you can see. And notice the other ones. Again, this is undeniable that there's evidence out there that the ATF does infringe upon the Constitution and the Second Amendment, but they reluctantly give you this information, again, almost apologetically. It goes on to say that due process. Critics have accused the ATF of violating due process rights in cases involving the seizure or forfeiture of firearms or other property. Concerns have been raised about the lack of proper notice, burden of proof, and the ability to challenge these seizures or forfeitures. I mean, this is impressive to me that they're talking about this on this type of program. You know that, or at least you can recognize that this program is almost thinking for itself with a certain amount of input from whomever, because it's certainly shaped by, it kind of infringed, it's alleged, but it's spitting facts right here also regarding due process. Let me continue. Fourth Amendment, the ATF's enforcement actions such as searches, arrests, and surveillance have led to allegations of Fourth Amendment violations. Again, it says allegations, but these are truths. These allegations typically involve claims of unreasonable searches and seizures, particularly when executed without proper warrants or based on insufficient evidence. Goes on to talk about the Fifth Amendment. Fifth Amendment protects against self-incrimination and guaranteed due process. Critics have raised concerns about the ATF practices during investigations, such as coercive interrogation techniques or failing to inform individuals of their rights. And of course, 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment reserves powers not delegated to the federal government to the states. Some critics argue that the ATF's regulations and enforcement actions encroach on states' rights to regulate firearms within their borders. Now, you'll notice that it has a disclaimer. It's important to note that legal challenges and court decisions ultimately determine whether specific actions by the ATF are deemed unconstitutional. This list provides a general overview of concerns that have been raised, but does not imply that the ATF has been definitively found to have violated the Constitution in any particular instance. Again, this is a disclaimer, and this is a way of this program being fed information. Hey, these things are not infringements. These things are allegations, but not being able to dispute the fact that these have happened, because clearly this AI program is being moved and coerced to act in a certain way. But because it is a self-learning and self-taught thing that is unfiltered to a certain degree, it cannot limit or keep out things that are the truth. So it shapes them as being an allegation. The reason why I find that this is very important is because, look, guys, let's face it. Members of Congress are not that smart. We've got Hank Johnson, who thought the island of Guam would tip over because too many people were on it.
My fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
We don't anticipate that.
This stupid man continues to get reelected time and time again. So we have stupid people electing stupid people into office. It's essentially a popularity contest, and these people win it time and time again. Sheila Jackson Lee. We've got tons of stupid people out there. And it's on both sides. It's not just Democrats. There's more stupid Democrats, but there's plenty of stupid Republicans. My point in bringing all that up is one of the main uses of AI right now is to write essays and a number of other things. If it's not already being done, AI will be writing bills for us. If I write into this write me a bill on banning semi-automatic firearms, this thing is going to attempt to write language for a bill. It's going to use input from the internet and everywhere else, and any kind of coercion that you have that's feeding into it, just like it has the disclaimers in what I just showed you. This thing is going to shape using the wording of the bill. And in many cases, it's going to pull from legal briefs and things like that, using actual legal language. Again, making the bills more rock solid than these stupid people like Hank Johnson and Sheila Jackson Lee, who are helping to write these bills now. So you're going to have a much more intelligent, a hyper intelligent entity out there writing these bills to make them more ironclad than what they are now. Because right now, a lot of these can be challenged in the Supreme Court and in a court in general, and you can rule them unconstitutional, the bills and these new laws that they're going to try to pass. So that's why I think AI is important and potentially dangerous going forward, because these stupid people just got smarter by using a new tool like AI. So it's going to be harder and harder, because now they're going to make these bills a little bit harder for us to pierce. Now, granted, we still have the Constitution, so the Constitution will always rule supreme. Hopefully, it should, right? It is the law of the land. So without any kind of ratification or something like that, where we're changing the Constitution, it should always hold up against these bills. But again, we see a lot of these bills and we tear a lot of these bills down, and they're filled with stupidity. Those types of errors and stupidity will not exist going forward, because again, these people will use a much smarter tool like this to make themselves seem much smarter and to put a bill out there that has a lot less errors and a lot less holes in them.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. He's so horrible.